love it. Well, without further ado, you guys got to stand up for this. Let's welcome back to the stage. Stand up, get up out your feet. Give it up for Grammy Award-winning, independent worldwide artist, philanthropist, entrepreneur, Chance the Rapper. Yes, sir. Wow. Okay, y'all can sit down now. We just have to show the respect. Man, this album just came out, what, maybe 2 months ago?
2 months ago.
And you got everybody singing along.
Yeah, thank you to everybody that was singing. Shout out to Autumn. Yeah.
You mentioned just getting off a tour. How did it feel to be back on tour and we back to? How did it feel to be back on stage, performing songs, performing a new project? How did that feel?
It's hard to even explain it. Like I'm always myself, but I get to be my full self when I'm on stage and when I'm singing and when I'm performing. So there's nothing like that, hour and a half, hour 45 minutes that I spend on stage. Then also just seeing people in real life, like it's so different. We live in a digital world now, and so a lot of the interaction that you might have with people that want to express their love or support of your art is something that gets lost in translation when it's through social media. Like that real life, like that hug, that, couple of minutes of talking, even just seeing somebody in the crowd, is just different. And so that's invaluable. But then also I'm 32, so it's like it's not as fun as when I was 22, you know what I'm saying? But it's still, I'm grateful.
Yeah. You talk about, having that interaction with your fans, and you were really intentional with creating experiences for your fans. And I mean, we got a little preview with the projector, but talk a little bit about those intimate experiences that you created with your fans, and why was it important to create those moments?
Yeah. So not everybody knows this, but I think at the beginning of 2024, I started doing a series of multi-sensory presentations, basically, of my music. So I would rent out these spaces and set up a 360 projector experience. Some people went to them, you know what I'm saying? They were small, like, 50 to 75 people, very secret, like, text if you know type thing. But I've been playing the album that I just released a couple months ago for people for the past 2 years, and kind of reworking the project and giving a visual element to it, as well as a new audio experience, like a new sound system that we designed for it. Without getting too nerdy or granular about that, because it's so hard to explain what it is, I would say the time that I spent with those supporters, with those fans, really, like, not only shaped the project, but also shaped me just as, like, an individual, like, understanding what music can do for people, what my music has done for people, and what new music from me could do for people. Because it's been so long since I released a project, and the world had changed so much, and I had changed so much, and my fans had changed so much, that I think it was a really integral part of our relationship. Everybody that I met during that time has been so supportive of me through this rollout and through the project releasing, and it really gave me an opportunity to contextualize my music better, like, if that makes sense. Like, when you're an artist, especially in the fine arts world, like, a big part of it is the context in which they present the art to you. So an artist, may spend just as long painting a piece as they do figuring out how to frame it, or what canvas to use, or how big the canvas is, or what space it would be shown in. And all of that lends to the experience of taking in the art. And so in the past few years, when I was spending a lot of times around people in the fine arts world, so different artists going to different art fairs and stuff, I learned a lot about presentation. And so that's where it was called Writings on the Wall, was the name of the experience that I was doing.
Such a cool concept. Such a cool concept. I mean, you talked about, when you're on stage, like, you feel like you're in your element. It seems like the creative comes easy to you. Do you feel that transition to the rollout, the packaging? Because it seems like, you're involved in not just the music. I mean, especially being independent, you're thinking about the videos, the merch, the how is this going to connect on stage? Do you connect that whole process to creativity, or do you have to separate your mind and be like, okay, now the music's done, let's work on a rollout, or is it what's the two different worlds there?
That's a really good question. Um, I'm a naturally creative-minded person. Like I like doing stuff for art's sake and for the experience. That doesn't always translate to business, but it's you only get one life to live, so I try and have as much fun and create as much access as possible for people experiencing my stuff. Um, when I guess the answer is yes. So we did a lot of things that other people didn't do, or other people don't tend to do or haven't done in a long time. One of them was relying heavily on uh, not just physical media like CDs and NFC CDs and all that stuff, but also going directly to the people. So we did what I called a CD tour the week after the project released, and we went to I think 5 cities in 5 days. Just me and a couple of the people that are on my team with like literally luggages like suitcases just filled to the brim with CDs and went to different record stores and independent record stores and set up little meet and greets and photo opportunities and just same thing I was saying about the tour. We just got to meet people where they are. And I think that's also a part of the contextualization of the album is like, how do you get it? Like, did you hear a song on the radio? Did you hear it at your gym? Did a friend show it to you? Or did the artist that made it put it in your hands? Like, all of those are different experiences and will lend to a different, perspective on the music. So I think the answer is yes. There's a lot of artsy shit going on. I'm doing stuff unorthodox.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. I mean, you mentioned, it's been a while since you released a project. I think it's been about six years.
6 years, yeah.
How did you know now was the time to come out and release?
Oh, that's another good question. I wish that I could say that it was just because it was done, but it was like it's been done a bunch of times and not done a bunch of times. I think, if I'm just being honest, I think that there's a great power in the hands of artists and journalists, which I kind of think of as the same thing. I think of, thanks, thanks, Ma. I think of, hey, Auntie Michelle, I didn't even see you at first. I think that if you are a person with a pen or a microphone or a keyboard or some way to platform a voice and a message, then you are a documentarian of our time. And I think that everything that I've been working on, I was doing it from the role of a griot, of like a person that's collecting stories and trying to redisperse them with a motive, with like a specific intention behind it, mainly liberation, but also self-determination, all these other things. And I felt that we're in a time where we're getting closer and closer to not having the ability to be documentarians as we see fit. I see a future, a very near future, where the freedom to speak on the ills of the world will be like greatly diminished. And if I could put it in layman's terms, I think they're gonna make it illegal for niggas to just say what they want to say very soon. And I think that at this time, the most important thing that you could be doing with your pen or with your voice or with your microphone is speaking on the way the world is right now. Because in the future, this will be what people are looking at.
Yeah. Wow. There's a line that you say in "No More Old Man," which actually is my favorite song on the
Thank you,
project
man.
as well.
That's my favorite song I ever
When you
made.
said that was your favorite, I was like, man, yeah, that one was special. But it's a line where you say that the future is sick. Are you referring to what you're talking about now, or break that line down? What do you mean by
Absolutely. So yeah, that song "No More Old Men" is the last song I performed. It speaks a lot to. It's specifically reminiscing on the joys and the importance of Black boyhood and like what we learn growing up in the spaces that we learn in. And it's, culturally specific. Spaces like the barbershop, and not even just romanticizing the barbershop, but specifically the lessons that we learn in there. You know, how to talk shit, how to fight, how to, conversations about love, conversations about just these lessons that you get in a certain space. And my cousin Nikki had made a poem a few years back called No Grandfathers in Chicago. And I was just so moved by the piece and thought that there was certain perspective that I could add, me being a boy, her being a girl, that I felt like was important. And so throughout the song, I'm kind of lamenting on the idea that these really important and formative lessons won't be available anymore because of the lack of old men, whether it's due to, premature death from violence or just health issues or environmental racism or depression over relationships. These are all things that like actually, and I'm sorry that it's such a dark fucking subject matter, but that's just what the song's about. And I think in that specific line, the present is past, the future is sick. The culture gave us cutout life-size funeral pics. I'm kind of just talking about these things that we start to normalize and start to, be able to expect as being, just a part of the ride, and how sick some of these things are. In my culture, like right now, especially in Chicago, it's a popular thing to get a cardboard cutout for funerals. Like when somebody passes, they take a photo and they blow it up and they make a standee out of it. And like I know a lot of people that have gotten these made, you know what I'm saying? And that becomes so normal that it becomes like I don't even know, like a part of just our day-to-day life, and like become something people can make jokes about, and like, but it's really like a sick thing, and like a symptom of a larger problem. And so I think the whole song is just kind of taking all these different moments of experience that I've seen as like, now me being 32, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not really a young man, but I'm not an old man either, but I'm in a space where I'm starting to understand the importance of my voice, the importance of the youth, and the importance of the lessons that I still need to get from some of the older men around me.
Wow. Speaking of those lessons that you got, whether it's the barbershop, talking to the people, if you're just from the neighborhood, I feel like every person that I've met from Chicago has such a pride about being from Chicago. We got Chicago in the house.
Yeah, y'all didn't know we was in.
Can you talk, what was it like growing up in Chicago for you, and how did that shape you into the man, the artist that you are today?
I think one of the main things that like I love to tell people about Chicago is a really, really big small town. Like everyone is very, very connected. Everybody knows each other. Their parents went to high school together. They used to go to day camp together. Like you're 2 to 3 degrees of separation from every person because of the public school system, because of, like I said, day camp or after school or your parents. And so it's a very communal like feeling. And I think if it wasn't for community, I wouldn't be able to do most of the things that I was able to do. Like a lot of like my first strides in music was like grassroots campaigning for a mixtape by going to different high schools in Chicago. When I was fresh out of high school, I would go to the, in groups of like with my friends and shit to different high schools and have either CDs to pass out or be selling tickets to like small capacity shows or just rapping in the parking lot. But like galvanizing people and creating, a community around a movement or around music is like Chicago was designed for that, and it's I'm blessed to be the person that it like worked out in that way for. But it's like everything is a scene. There's a DJ scene, there's a house scene, there's a footworking scene, there's an art scene, there's a food or movie scene or whatever, and like all of these little communities. Not to say little, but that's just a black people thing. We be like they little, but it's like, but the big communities that are out there really like represent the city well. And I think the other thing that like I learned from Chicago is just like I think we naturally are just like hardworking people. Like we'll complain about it too, but we'll work so hard and And we the originators of so many different sounds and styles, and grew a lot of sounds from gospel to rock to, blues, especially. House music was invented in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of movements that come out of there.
I mean, Chicago was definitely represented on the album. You had BJ the Chicago Kid, you had Vince Smith, so you even had Twista on the remix of Ride, and even the album cover as well too. Wasn't that done by?
Yeah, that's Brandon Bro.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. Was there any inspiration? It seems like it's inspiration from your past works too. How did that artwork come together?
Yeah, Brandon just has a style. So there's the cover art for the album is portraiture that's done by Brandon Bro. He's a lot of things for me, a big brother, a mentor, a frequent collaborator, but yeah, he did the cover art for 10 Day when I was 19 and Acid Rap and for Coloring Book and some of my singles in 2018. But he's just a genius dude. Like, you'd be surprised how many, like, savants you live at the same time as. And, like, sometimes they're just in the same community as you. And so I had hit up Brandon when I first started working on the album probably 5 years ago. We all had a dinner, a bunch of us. Vic was there and Joe Freshgoods and just all these Chicago people that I grew up around that had influenced me, and told them I was working on it. And so Brandon would come into the studio kind of intermittently and just, ask questions. And so he gets really, really detailed when he's choosing like certain small parts of the project. So he's really into the color scheme. Like, he's thinking about that before we even get the photograph. He's thinking about the landscape that's behind me, and how it can be symbolic of the sound or the content of the music. Every one of the covers that I did in the past had me straightforward at the camera, looking up for 10 Day, looking straight out past the camera for Acid Rap, and then looking down at my child for Coloring Book. And Starline being inspired by the Black Star Line, a shipping company, and the conversations around self-determination in the album led Brandon to start describing me as a captain. And so there's this captain's pose that was popular in like 17th century paintings of the pilots of ships, where they would be kind of a quarter turn. So they turn their body, like if the camera's right here, they turn like this, and then they go like this. So I'm like at a 3/4 turn in the image, but yeah, it's a lot of small details that Brandon's always thinking about.
I mean, you mentioned that dinner that happened 5 years ago, so this has been in the works for a while. I mean, I know it's a long time to cover, but what was that process like from that time that you started to think about this album to the release? Well, I know you had some trips that inspired your trip to Ghana, but what was it like during that period? Was it creating the whole time? Was it a time where you weren't creating and just living? Like, how was that 6-year period?
I was a mix of both. I wasn't creating every day. I was living life. You know what I'm saying? I was going through life. I was raising my kids. I was, I was being myself. But I was also, in terms of the work, it was a lot about learning. I like a lot about learning just about myself as an individual, how I operate in, social settings and when I'm alone, and just like re-looking at myself, right? Then also looking at the world, and not just like what I can easily access, but, doing research, traveling to places, like you said. I spent a lot of time in West Africa that really opened my eyes to a lot of different movements, recent movements from the 60s and 70s that changed the course of the world. And I think the most important work that I did was I spent a lot of time focused on, I guess, improving my relationship with the written word. I grew up in poetry spaces, and being I know that nigga went to poetry slams. They started snapping. That's the code. That's how we say what's up to each other. No, but it was really poets that really pushed me to be able to make this album the way it is. And it's Aja Monet, who's a Grammy-nominated poet. Vic Mensa, who grew up in the same poetry spaces as me. Saba grew up in the same poetry spaces as me. John Doe. A lot of writers from Chicago still do prompts. So when I was a kid, sorry, a little bit of context. When I was a kid, I used to go to a lot of after-school programs for poetry. There were two really big ones that, if you have any favorite rappers from Chicago, if you like No Name or like Mick Jenkins or Lucky or Vic Mensa or anybody like that, we all kind of like were 14-year-olds together in these weird little after-school poetry programs. And Jamila Woods as well. There's so many people. I'm forgetting a bunch of names. But we all went to after school together, and we used to do these things called writing prompts. So you would come in, you put your shit down, and you go in this back room with a bunch of tables and paper and pencils, and they would give us a prompt, and they would say, write from the perspective of an old love seat in the attic. You have 10 minutes to write a poem, and it may rhyme, it may not rhyme, it might be a rap, you might not get anything done. You got 10 minutes to try and express that. And we grew up on these. This was like what we would do every day. And as I got older and got kind of removed from the poetry space, I stopped looking at writing and recording as the trade that it is. Like, I stopped looking at myself as a wordsmith and as to naturally be reading and writing all the time, and started thinking about it more from the perspective of a performance artist, which I also always call myself. I always think of myself as a performance artist more than a recording artist. And I think it was spending time with Aj Monet, who was in these same spaces as us, that really sat me and Vic down and reminded us the importance of writing every day. Even if we never release it, even if we never record it, just getting those thoughts out and strengthening our minds and our pens was like a concept I had to be reintroduced to. And so I spent a lot of the last few years writing hella raps and poems, and then revisiting old works too, and like punching them up and choosing word by word. Like in this new Starline album, like every word is very, very carefully chosen. I even went back and like changed some of the thes to my's, or like, adding alliteration after I've written a whole verse, trying to find similar sounding synonyms to better get across my point, is like something that I would have never done in the past. It was just like something that I had to apply to my process.
I mean, you can definitely hear the growth in this album, especially lyrically. It seemed like you went into a whole nother bag on this album, especially lyrically. There's a line that you say where you talk about your face being shown, and you kind of referring the Moses, as a scripture, him going to talk to God. Did you have experiences, these spiritual experiences that happened through that time that kind of propelled you to this next level? Because it do seem like you tapped into another level on this, but was there any significant experiences or things that happened that kind of helped push you to this next level?
I kind of think of it as all as one thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I try and break it down, I can go, section by section of my life. I know there was a time where I was deeply involved in the fine arts world, whatever that was. I was like very, very deeply involved in that, and flying to all these art fairs and traveling the world. There was a point where I was really deeply invested in organizing a free festival in Ghana for 52,000 people, and like that was all I was like looking at. And like I just said, there was a long time where I was just writing a verse every day that wasn't, and none of these were necessarily like Starline, but they were like all of these points in my life were a path to it, and not even a path to it, it's literally a part of what Starline is. But there's not like a divine moment like on the road to Damascus thing where God was just like, all right, now you can rap amazing. Like, it was just like, it was a slow burn where I just like got better incrementally over time,
I mean, but when you look back, do you notice and to see like, oh
yeah,
man,
I'm much better at rapping than I ever was. That's for sure. No, without a doubt.
And you were already at a high level to begin with,
Yeah.
So yeah. I love it. I love it. I mean, you talked about those after-school programs that you were in. Did that inspire you to do the after-school and all the philanthropy work that you do now? And can you talk a little bit about some of the work you're doing on that side?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a nonprofit in Chicago called Social Works. We work with, thank you. We've been we've been blessed enough to raise $6 million for Chicago Public Schools in the past 5 years. Uh, we have all types of programming across. We work very closely with the transient or houseless population in Chicago. We work a lot, obviously, with the schools. We got a vacation Bible school. We just do a bunch of stuff in Chicago. Like if you ever go to a social works event, whatever it's for, it's usually lit. Um, but for real though, and uh, we started it though out of open mic. I'm so glad you asked me that question. So there's a dude that I reference in the intro on that album where I say, I found a brother Mike, uh, and brother Mike was uh, our mentor when we were growing up in one of the after school programs. Everybody that I just listed, anybody that got kind of famous out of Chicago, for the most part, if you were in my age group, he was your after school mentor, and he was very, very like keen on teaching us to be young revolutionaries, teaching us to be fearless, teaching us to be um, empathetic to others' problems because they're all our problems. He just radicalized a bunch of 14-year-olds when we were kids, and he was a great man. He passed away when I was 22, I think. But all of us, like we dearly miss him, and so yes, he was very, very influential, and he started an open mic at our after school space that everybody in Chicago used to be thirsty to get on the list to. It was a big deal in Chicago in high school to be. It was called the Lyricist Loft, uh, and when he passed away, myself, No Name, Vic, um, Saba, a bunch of everybody that like grew up in the space, and others too that you may not know of, but are also great poets or comedians or whatever he taught us to be. And we started our own open mic, and it was called Open Mic, but spelled like Mike's name. And that's been going on for 6 or 7 years now. But that was the beginning of Social Works. That was the first thing we started doing was open mic.
No, it's great that you're pouring into this next generation, being a product of programs like that, and starting your own. I love that. You talked about how having a platform, having a mic, there's sort of a responsibility to be intentional with your messages and things like that. When you're putting this album together and you're writing songs like letters, are there messages things that you wanted to say before and this was just the right time to say it? Like in letters, you call, it seems like you call out the church a little bit about um, maybe some of the antics that they do. And me growing up in a church myself, I know there's times where you hear people who have a church experience that they'll start to mix in with their faith. Their church experience will happen to affect their faith. Or have you been able to separate the church experience versus your personal experience with your faith? And do you feel like that message, is delivered in the things that you're talking about in this song as well too?
Uh, yeah, I think. So there's two different churches, right? There's like there's a bunch of different churches, but there's the church as in like the physical brick and mortar space that people go for worship, and then there's the body of Christ, which means all of us. And so when I'm addressing the church in the fourth verse of the song, I'm addressing the body. I'm addressing everybody, the least of us. And in these other ones, I'm addressing these brick and mortar spaces. So the first one is my church that I grew up in. Uh, these were thoughts formulated on the way back from my aunt's funeral, where I felt like in the wake of her death, even though she was celebrated by people that came back to the church for that one day, that wasn't necessarily how she might have wanted her legacy to be celebrated. I think she wanted people to pour into the same programming in the church and into people the same way that she did. And so it's a rebuke of that, right? And then the second verse is, a letter to the megachurch. And it's really specifically about how the church seems to lack a response to things that are definitely worldly or definitely the calling of the church to respond to, i.e., when Sonia Massey was killed by the police. That's like a big part of the second verse, is that this black woman was killed in her house. I think it was 2 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago now. I'm pretty sure she called the police. They came to her house and killed her. Her last words were, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And there wasn't a radical response from the church, not from evangelicals or the black church. And so in that moment, that felt like the perfect time to use another example of the church not stepping up, the brick and mortar church not stepping up as the body that it should be. And I think overall the song and my sentiment is that we like white blood cells in the body. Like we're supposed to be fixing, the issues. Like we are one. We're just one. You know what I'm saying? And I think, yes, there can be negative experiences in the church, and I think that people should, it's so important to separate Jesus from the church in terms of him being sinless and perfect and us being, again, the body below Christ, the bride of Christ. And I think that there's, sometimes people do mistake the church setting for what their relationship with Jesus should be. And so I don't ever want to conflate the two. But I do think there's a course correcting that has to happen. And one of the main missions of the church, I learned this from reading. I think a big change that happened was I learned a lot more about theology and how the word gets to us individually. Our pastors all go to divinity school and basically major in a different form of theology depending on where they went to school. So they're interpreting the word based on what they got. And my grandmother gave me a couple of books by James Cone, who's the founder or father of Black liberation theology, and it gave me a different context for the word. And Jesus wants us to be liberated through him. So my faith is a foundation for my liberation work.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing I always appreciate about you is how bold you are with your faith and not afraid to talk about it. Is that something that you've always had, or did you have to grow into that?
I definitely grew into it. I didn't used to talk like this. I was a bad kid. And that's when I had my come to Jesus moment, was years ago, right before I started talking like this.
What was that moment to make you feel like, okay?
I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. Just know it was scary, and I came out all right.
No, I believe that. Well, what I would say, and I'm not going to keep it on a heavy note, but you sharing your story about family and things like that, I think it really resonates as someone who kind of went through the same thing, divorced, married at a young age. Hearing you speak about it was all like, oh man, this is like, it actually is comforting. The difference for me is I was able to not have to share it with people. You are on stage talking about things that you go through. How do you mustered up that courage to talk about things that are tough, and talk about the highs and lows, pun intended, of the things that you go through? And do you see how it resonates with people? Do you hear stories about, man, I'm glad that you shared this and things like that?
I am starting to hear those stories. There's a song on there called Space and Time, and I had a lot of, shout out to you, brother. I had a lot of like, men and women too, but a lot of men came to me and been like, yo, thank you for this. Like, even ones that are still married, even ones that are married and don't have kids, they're like, I understand everything through the context of this song, and I fuck with you for putting it out. The courage comes from, again, those writing prompts, being with Aja and being with Vic, and writing without ever thinking about, like, is this going to get playlisted by Spotify? Like, that shit is so fucking whack. Like, I hope no artist in this room ever get caught up in that trap. Like, fuck everybody. At the end of the day, you just got to write it down. So I think there was a long time where I would be afraid to write certain things down or record certain things because I was like, am I going to regret saying this? But that's the cool thing about it, is like you have time to decide to not put that shit out. Like, there's a lot of stuff that didn't go on Starline, you know what I mean? And not that it wasn't artistically, amazing or like, something that would get a lot of people riled up, but like I just decided that it wasn't what I wanted to publish. But you have to write stuff to publish it first. So get it written down, maybe even if you like it, record it, and then decide from there what you're going to do with it.
It's powerful. It's powerful. I hear you talk a lot about the importance of really defining your success, especially as an independent artist, setting those goals that you create. For you, did you have specific goals in mind with this album to say, okay, I'm creating this goal. These are my success markers, and how do you come to those conclusions of what you want to achieve?
Uh, I think I'm always setting new small goals. I'm always trying to like make new goals because if I don't, I'll be complacent or feel like I'm not doing enough. So I'm always trying to make new goals. And I feel like for Starline, I have a million goals, and I think the way that I think about Starline, to be honest, is I think about it as like a monolith, not a monolith, but like what are those things called? Monolith? It's like a thing that's just like pops up in the desert, and it's just like a thing.
Mirage.
Fuck,
Mirage.
is that called a monolith? Okay, thank you. Is it?
A mirage, right? That's what we're talking about.
I'm
Mirage.
hearing like different murmurs of shit, like.
Something with an M. Mirage.
No, not a mirage. No. I appreciate you guys. But a monolith, yes. It's like a thing that you find in the fucking desert. All right, forget that metaphor. Let's lose that metaphor. Because we're clearly divided. To me, it's like, it's a time capsule. And it's a tool that I hope that continuously, not just in this Grammy season, but like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, people can listen to it and both get a sense of what it was like being alive in 2025 and what I've learned and researched are the correct ways to resist. And I think that if I'm lucky, you know what I'm saying? Like, the words that I put out there touch people in a way that make them want to share it with more people. I think that was a goal of mine, was that people would feel enticed themselves to share the music with other people without feeling like it's being forced on them. And third, I wanted some people to just look at me and be like, I got to marvel at your pen. You are the best of all time. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You feel me?
Yeah, I love it. I heard you shout out Moms a few times, and you actually kind of pay an ode to her on the album with the song Tree. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship and then the song specifically that you kind of pay homage to her on?
Yeah, my mom is my biggest supporter. She's, you know what I'm saying, since I was a kid. And, well, I guess since I was born, since I was a kid. Since I was really little. And then, and she's also the huge, part of the way that I'm able to parent. She helps me out so much with my children. Like, the world would not give me nearly as much if my mom wasn't so helpful. And yeah, my mom's, I think, I don't always say this, but my mom, I think, is a big part of the reason why I'm independent. My mom has always been, an entrepreneur, a do-it-yourself kind of person. She owned and operated a really successful hair salon in her 20s on the south side of Chicago, which is where I got a lot of my friends I grew up with. Their parents were clients of my mom's growing up, and she got rid of the shop because she got pregnant with me, and you know what I'm saying. So I had to return on that investment. But yeah, I think the song Tree is a ode to my mom, to black women in general, and a resistance song. And my mom has always told me to be myself. Always told me, don't do any drugs, just smoke weed. And my mom's from Pilot Mountain, North Carolina, or our family is from Pilot Mountain, North Carolina. And so a lot of the conversation around inequity in agriculture and lynchings and sundown towns, and some of the key words that I'm trying to teach on that song come from me being able to spend time at family reunions in Pilot Mountain, North Carolina, which is a very small town in North Carolina, and get history from my family, from my mom's side of the family. And so that was the single off of the album. It's got a sample by NDRE on it, which is music that my mom put me into. All of the samples on the album really are songs that my mom, even the songs that didn't go on there, the Lauryn Hill song that didn't go on there, but like a lot of those other songs are samples that, you know, I found through listening to music with my mom. Oh, Anita Baker told me to tell you, hey.
There we go.
Yeah. No, we just seen Anita Baker. I'll talk to my mom.
No, that's good. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, shout outs to moms, right? Round of applause. Yeah. Now the video Tree, you directed that as well.
I
So,
did.
too.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, we can round of applause for that. Yeah. Now I know you with independent, you got to wear many hats. So what made you get into directing specifically?
Great question. That is how I saved myself. I found filmmaking to be like the art form that spoke the most to me after my last album. That was the thing that brought a lot of my confidence back and gave me the ability to have output. And so I got a FX3 and a FX7 when I like first got my new studio house. I started getting a bunch of lenses and just doing, you know, little keyframe test and little, you know, putting up the green screen and trying to test on that and just learning about really beyond directing, really learning about cinematography. That's what I was talking about earlier with context, is like the music video, how people visualize you is almost more important than the audio now. Like it's very seldom that you're just listening to a song. You know what I'm saying? Like you're seeing at least a cover art or you're scrolling on Instagram or something. So you got to see the music that you're listening to. And I feel like once I had the camera in my hand and I could, you know, literally frame it how I want to and started learning about composition and learning about gaffing and learning about lighting and learning about just all the different things that come with making a shot, I really got to start to contextualize my music how I wanted to. So the first video I shot was in 2021 for a song called The Heart and the Tongue. I actually came up with the treatment before I wrote the song. And then I did, I think, 11 videos since then. And yeah, so shout out to Tree. That was like probably my biggest budget video I shot. And shout out to Lil Wayne and Smino for being in the video.
I love it. I love it. I know we're going to get ready to get like a couple questions for the audience pretty soon. And you kind of, I want to ask that you kind of answered my question a little bit, but when you said your mom was part of the reason why you wanted to be independent, was there ever a time where you were looking for a deal?
Of course.
Yeah. So when you're being independent, I mean, when we think of independent right now, you're like one of the faces that people think about. Could you talk about some of the, I guess, benefits and challenges that you run into as an independent artist?
Yeah. The benefit is that you're the boss. So, you know. I think just being honest, I think all the pitfalls are the same. You know what I'm saying? Other than obviously you own your masters, you own the rights to your distribution, you own your publishing, you hire your managers, you hire your agents, you hire photographers, hire videographers. Other than that, though, like, you still gonna have to, like, if you're signed to a label, you're still gonna have to, like, figure shit out yourself. Like, I know a lot of people that are signed that are like, the label's not doing this, the label's not doing that. Oh, I gotta do it myself. I'm like, shit, you should have started that way, nigga. But I think it's just like, the toughest thing is that I don't always have the investment. And I don't just mean financially. I mean, when an artist is doing well and they're in their year that the label is backing them and it's time for Grammy season, you got like half a building that's going to vote for you. You know what I'm saying? You have certain people that, whether they like your art or your product or not, if they see that it's successful and they feel like they're tied to it, they're going to push for it. They're going to push for that spot on the festival lineup. They're going to push for that magazine cover. They're going to push for, different things. And so I have not a lot of people that are, outside of like the people that literally work for me that are invested in my success. So sometimes it does feel like I'm going against behemoths. But again, like earlier what I was saying about the CD thing, there's certain things that you can do as an independent artist that there's a lot of red tape around when you're signed to a label or somebody else owns your masters or your publishing or your image and likeness or anything like that. So I can just randomly go on a CD tour or do, you know, a listening party for 2 years for my album if I want to. Like, it's kind of just on you. But I don't think that there's anything negative, to be honest, about being an independent artist. It's just like having any small business. Like, you have to learn to scale it. You have to find the right partners, the right people to, you know, to work with you. But it's life, nigga. Like, you got to be yourself. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. I think we're gonna open up for a couple of questions. I don't know if we have mic. No mics. No mics. Okay, so we have one right here. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you having your comeback and making the album. If you would speak on the Space and Time song, that song resonated with me a lot. I'd just love to hear your process on making it and what it means to you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, that was a song that started in Atlanta. Funny enough, like a lot of my ballads start in Atlanta for some reason. I wrote Same Drugs in Atlanta. And yeah, I think I really, after I made the first verse, which I think is really, really cool, and a very like, I don't know. I don't even know what angle to attack talking about this song from. But I think what I love about the song is that it's fantastical, that it's kind of world building as it goes. It continues to, you know, live within a certain theme, but express real world issues. It never gets so fantastical that you don't feel the grounded part of it, but it's also not so heavy that you like just can't bear it. And I think a lot of the literary references in it I like a lot. The Odysseus story, the Emperor Jones story, and I love the perspective. I think that it's like a very vulnerable. Just for anybody that hasn't heard the Space and Time song, it's a song about what is it about? I don't know. No, it's just it tells the story of the main character in the story grows up real fast and is thrust into the position of being a leader or a warrior or a captain of a ship or whatever you want him to be in the story. And in the second verse, he goes off to a distant land and wins all the spoils of war, but eventually starts to miss being home and wonders if his family back home will still be there when he gets back and if they'll be proud of how big he's become. And in the third and final verse, the main character returns home, maybe ashamed, maybe resentful of the time that he spent away, and asks if he can return to the space that he had left open. And the main character's love interest says no. That's basically the story. So it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy, but it's what I love is that it offers perspective. So much of the album is from my perspective, even when I'm talking about the world. And it's the first time where I'm self-critical from someone else's perspective, and gives a voice to the love interest in the story and a reason behind her decision. I think that's, I don't know. I thought it was just mature of me. I thought it was dope. So,
Good question. We have one right here. Yeah.
hey.
Question. So I went to the Writers on the Wall experience a few times, and I heard a lot of songs that I didn't hear on the album. Do we get a deluxe?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have not been working on a deluxe. You're right. There's a ton of songs that are Starline, and for whatever reason, I thought I might get in trouble for them, or I thought that that they would slow the album down, or maybe they just weren't. I didn't think the raps was gonna. Whatever the reason was. In reality, they were all fire. So every once in a while, we'll be sitting in the car and we'll be like, "Damn, nigga, you ain't put this on there." and so I do like feel like I want the masses to be. I want it to be accessible to the masses, but I also really, really liked the Writings on the Wall experience. Like, I think it's better than my concert, even though my concert is fire. But it's like, it's just different because it's all new music. It's a different way of hearing things. It sounds better. It looks better. Like, it's around you. Like, it was dope. The problem is that it's not easily scalable. So it's always going to only be for like 75 to 100 people. And so I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do in terms of like still keeping that intimate feel of sharing music, but also like letting more people experience it. So I don't know. It's a good question. I'll go home and think about it.
I'm gonna go in the back and I'm gonna come back up here, right here. Yep, green. Yeah.
So, a lot of times in black culture, we think about how much we can do to shape and help our own culture. And growing up in Los Angeles, I grew up with a lot of love, a lot of community, and I've also looked at a lot of the ways that people look at me. And in your experience, how much more work do you think we need to give to the outside world and our own talents and our own abilities in whatever way that young black men can give to the world? How much more do we need to give to the outside world and the outside culture? And how much more do we need to give to ourselves?
Wow. I ain't studied for this quiz, nigga. Damn. Niggas always want to ask a serious question. All right. Let me think about that. How much do we owe to the world? Oh, sorry, Mom. How much do we want to give to the world? First of all, we're always giving to the world. Sometimes we don't even give. Sometimes people just take. Let that shit sizzle. All right, what up, my poets? And I think we owe ourselves everything. And I think that we don't give ourselves enough. So I think it's always important. I think it works in a lot of different ways. Like, you're not being specific, so I won't be too specific. But I think there's ways to pour into your family as a community, and your family has tears. And then there's ways to pour into your community, and your community has tears. And there's way to pour into strangers that are still your people, and that has tears. And I think the hardest thing is just prioritizing them. But I think we owe everything to ourselves. And I think no matter what, even if it's involuntarily, we'll always be giving to the world. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I see you right there.
Hey.
My name is Valerie. I'm an independent artist from Nairobi, Kenya. I know Starline was heavily inspired and tied to your experience in Ghana and West Africa. I'm curious how that experience was for you as an artist in the creative scene, experiencing the African music, and if you plan to tour the album in Africa, especially East Africa.
Great questions. I do want to go to East Africa so bad. I was supposed to go to Nairobi in 2017, and it ended up not happening. But I plan to, definitely next year. I will. Yeah, I think the two biggest ways, believe it or not, I was definitely spending a lot of time around Afrobeats and high life producers being in West Africa. Noticeably, that sound's not very, present on the album. But I think the two ways that Ghana influenced me the most is, one, as I was talking earlier about being around the fine arts a lot. The first time I got introduced to some artists that would become my really good friends was in Ghana. When Vic invited me out, like, I think the next day he left Ghana. Like, I flew out there to meet this nigga, and he left immediately. And I had never been to Ghana before. But he left me in the care of these artists, these amazing contemporary visual artists. Some of them painters, some architects, some sculptors. But, like, come to find out, these are, like, some of the top artists in the world, top selling artists in the world. And they all happen to just be in Ghana. Some of them from Ghana, but they all happen to be in Accra, Ghana at the same time. And so spending time in their studios, doing studio visits to other spaces, going to talks, and that first trip in Ghana really allowed me to understand the art space more, because visual arts has never been my thing. But I started to understand, like, how vital their communication is, how good they are at communication, how compact a piece can be, and how important sensory detail is, like what something smells like or looks like, or invoking a sense through your art. Like, I learned a lot of that from them. So I attribute, like, my foray into the arts world to Ghana. And then also, I've said it before, a lot of times when Black Americans go to Ghana, they they're made to feel like they should go visit this place called Elmina Castle. And Elmina Castle is uh, the like one of the oldest slave castles in West Africa. So all along the coast on the west side of Africa, there's all these old slave castles where they would gather up black folks from different tribes and imprison them until they were transported in the transatlantic slave trade. And so it's a big thing when black folks repatriate or go to visit Ghana to go visit these slave castles. And I would never go to some shit like that because I'm so Gucci. Like I never ever need to see that. But you know what I'm saying? Props to whoever does go see it. I'm not that strong. And I already know a lot of that history. What I learned about when I went to Ghana, and this is what the artist showed me, is I learned about Kwame Nkrumah. And so Kwame Nkrumah is the first president of Ghana. He's actually buried in this huge mausoleum in Accra. And you can go and like learn about the story of his life. He's like our most recent contemporary, like revolutionary hero, you know. And because of him, afterwards you get Patrice Lumumba, you get Thomas Sankara, you get Nnamdi, you get all of these revolutionary leaders. But prior to his presidency, all of Africa was colonial land. Like I always thought when I was growing up that like Nigeria and Chad and all these places had just been like historic places from antiquity. I didn't realize that a lot of these places didn't get their independence until after the civil rights movement. So like post Martin Luther King. You know what I'm saying? Televisions and color TVs and radios were around before there was a country called Ghana. And I didn't learn that until I got there. But I went and did my homework on him. I'm not gonna radicalize you guys right now, but like he was getting shit done. And he and his whole powers and intelligence and understanding of the world came from him being cool with black folks in America. He went to a HBCU here and took a lot of the stuff that he learned about Marcus Garvey, about some of his contemporary black poets, educators, activists, and he took it back to Ghana and founded a whole country, kicked the British out, and founded a whole country on this idea of Pan-Africanism and there being a global black community. And so those two things really like shaped the whole project and my understanding of self, and it went on into the work. Yeah, and yes, I will be on the continent. Without a doubt, I'm gonna do some shows. I gotta figure out when and where.
Awesome. Great question. Great. We are out of time. We're getting ready to wrap up. First off, give Chaz a round of applause. It's been
Thank you, guys.
absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Really quick, two things really quick. I hear you always speak like so highly of the Grammys, and I'm not just saying this because we're here, but can you talk a little bit about why that's important to you? I mean, you were a pioneer when it comes to, you know, winning a Grammy for the first streaming album, you know, for consideration. And now, why is that important to you, that award? What does that mean to you?
It's in two parts. One is I believe that everyone has the same relationship to music as an artist that I do. Like, I believe that my contemporaries understand music to be an incredibly important thing in existence. Like, beyond it being an art, just the existence of music. If I had to show it to somebody that had no idea what music was, I would probably cry explaining to them what it means, you know? And I believe that my peers have that same appreciation for it. So anytime there's something that's poignant or you know, beautiful or game-changing, I expect my peers to all point at it and say that's important, regardless of sales, regardless of popularity, regardless of anything like that. And that's how I view the Grammys. I think of it as like it's a meter of excellence. You're literally voting based on excellence of something. and the importance of something rather than the quantity of it. You're judging the quality of it. And so I think that that's just a beautiful thing that a bunch of my peers, some 18,000 of them, some of them, you know what I'm saying, work in a corporate office, but a lot of them play the fucking violin or something. I don't know. And I think that's deep. I think that's dope that exists, that there's a recording academy for arts and sciences, like the science of this art that we do. I think that's just beautiful. And the second one, if I'm being honest, is that the Grammys, beyond the validation of being nominated and being called Grammy worthy for a work, there's something that happens when you're nominated or win a Grammy in terms of platforming the music, that there's just no other space that does this. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we think about it, it feels good to fondly think of Coloring Book as like the biggest splash mega hit project of 2016, but in reality, it wasn't that popular until after it won the Grammys. Like, Coloring Book was, I'm not saying it wasn't popular. I'm not saying I didn't go on tour. I'm not saying that it wasn't some people's favorite music, but in terms of it being, it wasn't a #1 song at radio. It wasn't like a part of some huge campaign. It was a grassroots thing that we immediately went out on the road with and went and touched the people and went and, like, you know, created this groundswell from individuals and then got it propelled to the space where it could be nominated for a Grammy. And then once it won, the difference between the amount of people that knew what Coloring Book was a week before the Grammys came and who knew about it a week after the Grammys came was exponential. Like, there's no comparison. And the way that things just fell into place, like social works, I would have never been able to work with the Chicago public school system the way I did if I hadn't won the Grammys. I won the Grammys, and the ex-governor of Illinois tweeted me and was like, "Oh my God, Chance the Rapper won all these Grammys. How would you like a parade?" I was like, "Nah, nigga, let's talk about these school funding formulas." But it put me in a completely different space. Everywhere that I go, people say Grammy Award-winning Chance the Rapper. This really means something to be recognized by this space. And so I think that the music in both places, it deserves it. I think that and not to say deserve like it's like anybody could be undeserved, but I think that it's excellent enough for my peers to appreciate it. And I think that it's important enough to be platformed.
Wow. Absolutely. And this is an amazing project again,
Thank you, man.
Amazing project. We'll end on this. I mean, tour just wrapped up. Our album is out. What's next for you?
I'm gonna be here for like a week chilling, and then I'm gonna go home and just wrap the year up in style, do some Thanksgiving type things, and like I don't know. I'm chill.
There you go. There you go.
Tired, boss.
Give it up one more time for Chance the Rapper. Awesome job. I appreciate it.